It's been said that luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity. Welcome to the Australian Hunting Backcountry podcast, where we will focus on all things hunting in the backcountry, not just in Australia, but everywhere that backcountry hunting is possible. My name is Tobias, and if you're a hunter with no backpacking experience, or even an expert, I would like you to join me as we explore gear, places, and technologies, hear lived experiences, different perspectives, and share the passion that people have for a hard-earned backpack hunt. I appreciate you being here with me as I try to increase the knowledge that will bring us better luck in the backcountry. The Australian Hunting Backcountry podcast is proud to welcome two new partnerships for 2024. Skeleton Optics Australia and On Track Meals are now both sponsors of the show. Skeleton Optics Australia is a family-run Australian-based business offering premium high-performance and durable sunglasses for active outdoor users. Skeleton Optics sunglasses use polarized Zeiss lenses and feature frames designed with lightweight and impact-resistant materials that provide a secure and comfortable fit. I personally now use Skeleton Optics sunglasses and would encourage you to reach out to Chris and Daniela if you would like further information on what glasses might suit you best. On Track Meals are made in Brisbane and is a 100% Australian and veteran-owned business. On Track Meals pride themselves on producing high-quality, shelf-stable, healthy, real food designed to be taken with you on your next adventure. Because the meals are not dehydrated or freeze-dried, they have retained all the flavour, don't require any water to be added, simply heat and eat, or they can even be eaten cold. They have a broad selection of meals with many more being planned and cater for some allergies and diet options. The coconut ginger chicken is now my new favourite, and On Track Meals will be accompanying me on many future adventures. All right, welcome to this episode of Australian Hunting Backcountry. Today, on this episode, I am joined by Ben Brallis, who is also known as the Game Dietitian. Ben, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me on, Tobias. Appreciate it, mate.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming, mate. I know you're busy and we're recording this in the evening because you've just gotten home from work, so I do appreciate your time. Ben, you and I have started off by connecting on Instagram. I came across your profile and really appealed to me because from the looks of it, first and foremost, you're a hunter. Second of all, you're got nutritional education and strength and conditioning training. I've looked on your website there. You've got a list of qualifications and trainings that are long enough to choke a spotted dog. So well and truly confident that you're going to be the right man to talk to when it comes to nutrition and strength conditioning for backcountry style hunting.
Yeah, well, hopefully I tick all those boxes. So, I have been, I guess, in the industry for a long time and doing a lot of education, trying to always upskill. Mm-hmm. So, I guess from a qualification perspective, from those who don't know, I have a master's in dietetics, so I'm a dietitian. Before that, nutrition science degree, strength and conditioning degrees, everything from conditioning coach to nutrition coach to massage. I've done pretty much all of it in my near decade long career in health and fitness.
Yeah, right. And in terms of what you're doing now, like you said, you've done your masters. How are you sort of applying that in earning a living and B, the hunting side of things?
Yeah, so primarily I'm a full-time clinical dietitian at Barwon Health. So I work in a subacute or a rehab space. So I mainly work with patients who just recovering from surgery. That could be anything from a total hip replacement to amputees. And then I also work at Deakin University, so I mark assignments there for exercise for nutrition science. Mm-hmm. So I guess helping that next generation of those who are interested in pursuing dietetics or sports science and exercise science. And then on top of that, I've run the Game Dietitian as well. So that's everything from, I guess, selling programs to personal training, strength and conditioning, nutrition coaching, um, as well. So fairly busy. Some hours are 60 hours, some weeks are 60 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, so try and have a good variety of things. And I've primarily find myself, I guess, as an educator, first and foremost with clients, patients, and then on the hunting side of things as well. So mainly hunting sambar. Have been doing so probably really consistently for the last 5 years, but have hunted pretty much all my life. So my pop taught me, everything from where to point the gun correctly or incorrectly, and mainly hunting rabbits and spotlighting a bit. And as we got older, we got into, hunting some deer, and then had a little hiatus for a bit. And then now that I guess got more freedom in my life in the last 5 years, I can have been out hunting, and just love being outdoors, and mainly the end result being getting to eat the meat. That's probably my main thing why I hunt, is for the nutritional value of what the end product is.
Yeah. Yep. So what I can see from your Instagram is that when you're talking about the food and your reason for hunting, is you seem to have a real connection, and you're very much about promoting that connection between the paddock plate, what you're producing, having a connection to your food. And I'm not just referring to protein sources like venison, but you have quite a few. You obviously got a garden there, and you're growing your own vegetables and that sort of thing.
Yep. So got the veggie patch. That's pumping all year round. So, and even if we go to like a fish, I guess, fishing side of things as well, I'm not a very good fisherman, but my brother's heavily into that, and pretty much all fish we eat is what he catches as well. So we try and really have, it's more, I guess, from our perspective, is having control over what we eat. And it's also then having, I think I get a really good sense of like pride being able to share that with family and friends as well.
Yeah.
And just letting them experience, wild game and homegrown vegetables that haven't come out of plastic. And I eat venison every day. I eat veggies from the garden every day. And so, yeah, if I can, I guess, encourage people to do that, because I feel like there's a benefit, then I feel like I've done a good job.
Dietitian advice. I've got a friend who's a dietitian, and she focuses on keto. She deals with obese patients and utilizes keto to obviously strip the body fat out and so forth. And she's very much about, just because I tell you to do this, just because I promote keto doesn't mean that's going to be suitable for everybody. So people can try it. They can try keto, they could try paleo, they could try carnivore, they could try plant-based, but it's got to be, they've got to feel their way through the diet to understand what it is that works with their body. It's not just about, I want to be a carnivore, so I'm going to do the carnivore diet, because it might not actually work in your body.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, if we go back to basically how we're built, we have teeth that are used for, an omnivorous diet. So there should be some component of plants, and there should be some component of animals. But yeah, some people do feel great on like a carnivore diet because they have some serious, intolerances and things like that. I've had a client in the past that was vegan because their best friend was, but was felt like absolute crap. And I was like, how about we try, instead of having vitamin B injections and iron infusions, how about we actually try a bit of red meat?
Mm.
And it's like, oh, I don't know. And I said, look, I'm not telling you that you have to, but I said, even if it's like a burger or, some mince in a taco or whatever it is. And they went from not eating meat to having red meat every second day
Mm.
because the body was screaming out for that nutrition.
Mm. Mm.
So it just shows that, yeah, everyone is different. Like my wife, she does low FODMAP because she has GI issues,
Mm.
where I can tolerate pretty much everything.
Mm.
So I'm lucky.
Mm.
So, but it's just, yeah, it's not one size fits all.
Mm.
And I guess, yeah, understanding people and understand their symptoms and what they're actually trying to achieve as well. So, like keto is probably not really suitable for backpack hunting
Mm.
or hunting in general because you don't have the energy, or to do that continuously. It's like I would encourage carbohydrates,
Mm.
for hunting. But again, some people might be doing keto and go hunting and feel absolutely amazing. So
Mm.
again, it doesn't, you know, you've got to, like you said, you've got to all go on your own journey and figure it out.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And I guess probably going down a bit of a rabbit hole here, but when you look at us as a species and you go back to caveman days and so forth, and this is coming back to your comment about the omnivorous style diet, when we were cavemen, to get a protein source, a meat source, was a considerable effort because we had to go out and hunt. We had to overpower the animal with very basic implements, and then had to butcher it and consume it within a limited amount of time as well. So for a majority of the strong belief is, and you feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, but the strong belief across the nutritional world is that we were considerably a plant-based diet for a majority of our meals, simply because that was the easiest and most readily available source of nutrition. But a meat-based protein was and also a very significantly important part of that diet as well.
Yeah, and you really look at it, I guess, from a feast and famine approach. We would go from, not having much because, we've killed a deer and the tribe or the clan, however you want to look at it, has eaten it over 2, 3 days
Mm.
and it's gone. So I always used to laugh at this every day. And I was like, yeah, but if you actually hunted, there's only one liver and one heart, per animal. And that's being shared through multiple people,
Mm.
not just you every day. So it's not really reflective of how we were,
Mm.
that primitive style. Um, but yeah, like we would go and we'd find, oh, blood sugar's getting low, and we'd be able to source honey, we'd be able to source some fruit, and that would get us going again. So yeah, definitely there was, I guess, the plants played a huge role, but then there was always that drive to find the protein
Mm.
because end of the day we needed it. But like you said, the effort to get that was massive.
Mm. Mm. And quite often costly, obviously, as well, because um,
Yep.
we tend to lose the fight against quite a few animals when it comes down to hand to hand
Yep.
combat style.
Yep. Definitely.
Um, so what was the birth of the Game Dietitian for you then? What drove that to develop?
Yeah, so at the time I was working, mainly. I had I guess, a business with a friend at the time, and we were working mainly with combat athletes. So I was actually doing quite a bit of weight cutting, coaching, and rehydration. Um, so yeah, make sure people make the weight and then regain the weight so then they can fight and not get a concussion and things like that.
Mm.
And then I kind of wasn't really enjoying it. And then I didn't really see anyone talking about strength and conditioning for hunting, or, basic just injury prevention type stuff.
Mm.
And then I was thinking too, okay, well, obviously from a, tertiary education side of things, I'm doing my master's, so obviously have the dietetic element to it, and eat, like I said before, the whole, I guess, approach to food being something that's complete control, from eating the, meats, the veggies, going fishing and things like that.
Mm.
It was just something I wanted to, I guess, share with others. And maybe just, even if it's not something that really kicks off, but at least, I can have conversations with people like you who are interested, and we can just kind of change the mindset a bit, because hunting it is a sport, and it is dangerous, and we do some tough yards. Everyone's like, oh, do the miles, get the smiles, but what actually goes into the miles? What do we need to do to actually ensure we can do that continuously, and not just from, a 3-day hunt, but for 30 years or more? We want that longevity side of things. So, yeah, I guess I just wanted to, kind of change people's perspectives on things, and try and, again, educate or help, or just get a general conversation going.
Yeah, yeah. Years ago, back in 2019, I was planning a big trip over to America, and we were spending about 6 weeks over there hunting, different states, different game, that sort of thing. And so in preparation for it, I was doing a lot of training, and I was trying to find a PT who would actually train me appropriately, or what I felt was appropriately. And I really struggled to find someone. And in fact, I didn't actually find anyone really, but the closest I came was a PT who used to train American basketball college. What are they called over there? When they're
collegiate athletes, or
when
I don't even know I don't know the system too well.
Yeah, these are sort of guys that were preparing to try and get into the professional league.
So that NBA and stuff.
that step from college into the professional. And so he sort of had, when I explained to him about backpack hunting, and you talk about backpack hunting being a sport, it is again something that's very different, because it's unlike any other Olympic sport or traditional sport. It's not just about needing fitness. It's not just about needing strength. It's not just about needing dexterity and flexibility. It's all of those things. And different muscle groups get used, and how they get used, and you're twisting and turning and walking on uneven ground, and having a changed center of gravity, and different environments, and all of that sort of thing. So I'm happy to hear you say that it is very much a sport. But the one thing, when I explained all this to him, he said, okay, well, because of his background in training basketball, a lot of that was doing one-legged exercises, and sudden changes in direction, and strengthening that sort of posterior chain, and so forth. So it was interesting working with him, and how that sort of translated over, and there was some sort of handshakes between some of the aspects, but traditionally, it was, what I found was, backpacking traditionally is very difficult to get someone to understand and train you for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can see the carryover between basketball and hunting, because there is that, I guess, a lot of impact through the lower limbs in basketball. So definitely some of the exercises, like I said, posterior chain. So, ensuring that your calves are strong are going to add, some real bonuses to, the integrity of your ankle. Hamstrings are for your knees. Glutes are going to be your powerhouse, but they're also going to help, take pressure off your lower back. And then obviously your back. So you need obviously a good strong lower back. You need the upper back to carry the weight, but then also from, posture perspective as well, because if that's weak, then all of a sudden the pack adds weight. If it hasn't got heavier, but because you can't stand up properly, it's heavier. So there is, I guess, multiple carryovers there. I definitely can see that.
Right. So the packages, I'm looking at your web page here, and you do have some products and packages available on your website. So do you want to take us through some of those? You can either do it specifically or sort of do it, as a whole.
Yep. So there's a fallow deer program, which is a 6-week, gets you ready for hunting kind of program. So a lot of that stuff I base off, general physical preparedness and injury prevention, and then also the conditioning side of things. So it is a good kind of introduction to people who either are hunting or want to get into hunting, or people who haven't really trained before as well, because we have some programming, like structural balance kind of thing is what we would call that, from a strength and conditioning perspective. So it's just ironing out any kinks and making sure everything's working. And then the last 2 weeks are more of your general physical preparedness. So it is training quite harder.
Yep.
So there's weights, three weight sessions a week. They're whole body sessions. So I believe in not smashing one body part each day. That's very, bodybuilder kind of thing. And that doesn't carry over to hunting. So that's just got a big line through it.
Yeah, the beach body, the beach muscles, might look good in the t-shirt on the beach, but not really transferring over into hunting.
No, not at all. And then there's 3 conditioning workouts a week, so they might range from anywhere from half an hour to over an hour. So there is kind of a recovery-based one, and there is one where you're, getting your heart rate up a lot more, getting used to working under some heavier loads and things like that, or really trying to get your heart rate up in the red zone. And then the third one in the program I have on like Saturdays and Sundays, it's either you're doing like a hunting simulation kind of workout. So we're really trying to cook the legs in about 10 to 15 minutes. And then from there, it's actually putting on the pack, loading it up, and walking, whether it's for 60 minutes or 5 kilometers, whichever comes first. So it's, a good starting point. And the weight can gradually increase, or the time can gradually increase, or the distance, depending on how people feel. And it's getting people used to walking with a pack, because the only way to get good at walking with a pack is walking with a pack. And if we can, simulate, going up some steep inclines and then having to, keep going, that's the carryover there. But then Saturday and Sunday is, like I was saying, you could do that, or I always have go hunting. That's the other option.
Yep.
That's the best replication there. But you've done all your preparedness throughout the week that will allow you to, have the injury prevention side of things. So that's you buy a 6-week program, and if you have any issues, you just email me and I'll try and help you out. But it's pretty well, set out. And then there's some nutrition in there as well, just some general guidelines, either for weight loss or performance, depending on what people want to achieve. And then there's the Red Deer program. So that's more of my, personal training, really tailored to people side of things. And that's if people want to come into the gym or online, there's some options there. We have performance testing that I do. nutrition assessments, really try and iron out any kinks. And then the last one's the Sambo one. So that if people look, it's application only, a couple people every 6 months. Obviously, as we said at the start, I'm very time poor. But that is training. Pretty much you could spend every day with me training. If people, and I really try and I guess dive into the cooking and the nutrition side of things as well. So anything from helping people go shopping to helping them cook. I would do those kind of things as well. To having my mobile number on speed dial for like 12 hours a day, because some people need support. And as well, then I've got access to, I guess, some supplements as well if people need it, but I try not to do that unless there's really an issue that we think through some like biochem, so testing bloods and stuff like that. And then then I just have general consult from chronic disease management from a dietetic to sports performance, really, to weight loss. So kind of do a little bit of everything, but I guess that's a real general overview.
Yeah. And you're based in Victoria?
Yes, Airport West, Victoria.
Okay. So are these services also available for people outside of Victoria, or are they only an in-clinic?
Yes. Yeah. So mainly if you wanted, obviously, a face-to-face service, you'd have to come in. And if people are wanting to, come from interstate or, even within the state, like my grandparents live 5 hours away and we're still in Victoria. So happy to do any Zoom kind of things as well. So or organize a time where we can, come in, do a really good thorough assessment, and then I can, depending on what facilities the person has available to them, I can come up with a plan accordingly. And I guess that's where that personal side of things, the personal training, the personal touch comes into it, making it work around people's lifestyle.
So without trying to I guess do you out of business, what sort of advice could you give to people who were starting to prepare for a backpack hunt? Where would you suggest that people start? Obviously, calling you would be, step
by the 6-week program.
Yep. Step number 1, sign on the dotted line. But let's say I'm preparing for a hunt next year or later on in the year, a few months away. Where would I start?
I think it would be good to, if possible, if the person has access to any, I guess, heart rate monitors or anything like that, and actually see kind of what they're doing if they are training at the start. Get some data. So what's your energy expenditure like? How hard are you pushing? A lot of these fitness apps and stuff will give you a VO2 max score. So that's your overall, I guess, cardiovascular fitness. So that would be a good starting point. So if yours is, in the 30s, all right, you probably need to, and you're in the gym every day, and you probably need to stop lifting weights, and you probably need to start doing some cardio.
Okay.
And if your VO2 max is 50 and you're like a string bean, you probably need to just focus on maintaining your aerobic capacity and start lifting some weights. So that's where I would, from a programming generalization perspective, I would start there if people had access to that data. If they didn't, like I said, some whole body workouts, and look at, strengthening ankles, knees, hips, back, so your posterior chain. Then if you're a bow hunter, I would seriously consider doing some rotator cuff work and elbow work as well. So really trying to, I guess, base everything around joint integrity. and then I would do some cardiovascular training on that. So you can have, like I said, similar to the 6 week program, depending on fitness levels, have a recovery based one, have a simulation style hunt, and then also have something where you actually are trying to really ramp things up and push yourself.
Yep. And with the weightlifting, what are 5 weight-based exercises that you would recommend people to start with?
Yep. So, um, from a programming perspective, I always, if we think of movement patterns, so we've got upper body push, upper body pull, lower body push, which is like a squat, and lower body hinge. And then you have your core and your other, I guess, accessory exercises. So, um, my top 5, I would probably have something like a glute bridge or oh God, I've just gone blank. Hip thrust.
Mm-hmm.
So what all the, I guess, all the female fitness influencers are doing out there for their glutes.
Yep.
A
That's
lot of blokes don't like to train them, but we need to do them.
that's the one where you don't make eye contact with other guys in the gym when you're doing it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. When my clients do the blokes, I tend to leave the room and just give them some personal space. But yeah, so I would definitely have that. I would also have some hamstring kind of exercise as well. So I would probably go for something like a single leg deadlift, a Romanian deadlift with a barbell. Again, it depends on progression and where people are. If there's some serious imbalance, always start unilaterally, so single leg exercises.
Mm-hmm.
So something like that. Then for the quads, I really like doing, so having your foot up on a bench and just, up and down, basically. You'll cook your legs nicely there.
Sorry, just say that part again. You froze for a second.
Oh, sorry. The Bulgarian. So for the quads,
Yep.
Bulgarian split squats.
Okay. Yep.
So that's quite a hard exercise. But again, if someone is finding that difficult, maybe do a front foot elevated split squat as well. So focusing on that unilateral work. It's very good for the quads. Very good for knee tracking as well.
Mm.
If some people are quite unstable. And then I would also having a squat that's also going to carry over like a bilateral, so it's your 2 legs together, something like a kettlebell squat where you're actually holding it out in front of you, so it's like a counterbalance, and
Yep.
then having your heels up on a bit of a wedge. So having your heels elevated actually takes pressure off the hip, so you do find people have better range of motion. And then also by activating the core, stability actually equals mobility. So then they can track better and they can actually squat deeper and get access a new range of motion they didn't have before.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like to do with that is I like to put my clients in front of the dumbbell rack, and they hold the kettlebell out in front of them. They're like, "Oh, I'm going to hit the rack." I'm like, "Yeah, only if you fall over.
Mm.
So don't fall over." And
Mm.
then all of a sudden they actually have to activate their core and stand up.
Yep.
So that's a really good, 2-in-1.
Mm-hmm.
And then from a, I guess, upper body perspective, doing something like a row, can be any style of row. I like to really isolate the back. So going on a bench on like a 45-degree incline. So you're basically straddling it or going prone.
Mm-hmm.
This might be some of the, I guess, the terminology, and doing some rows that way, because then you're actually keeping your lower back locked in place, and you're, I guess, not cheating as much. And I actually like to row better and do quite a bit of rows or presses and things like that with actually kettlebells opposed to dumbbells.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being is where you have a dumbbell, depending on where you hold it, that's actually where the distribution of the weight is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
where a kettlebell is right underneath. So I find that's actually a lot better and people have more success with them. And then probably for lower back, again, lower back and glutes, reverse hyper. Now, a lot of people don't have access to these machines, or they're not really in gyms too much. I've got one here because I was finding I was having to rehab quite a lot of people with bad backs. So that's basically where you have your upper body up on a big, I guess, pad platform, and then your legs are in a pendulum and you're swinging them up and through.
Okay.
So they would be, I guess, from a overall good integrity point of view, they would be probably some key exercises. And then I guess talk about the calves as well. So doing a mixture of standing and sitting calf raises, but also working on the shin as well. So it's a muscle called the tibialis anterior. So that's going to also help with shin splint prevention, and just again, it's like the lower part of the limb. You know, people just train the calves a little bit, but we should look at it like biceps and triceps. People like training both of them together. So why don't we train the front of the leg as well?
Yeah.
Like quads and hammies. So yeah, definitely I would do that. And then I guess one more for a press would be a kettlebell bottom up press. So holding the kettlebell upside down, you're having to stabilize the shoulder joint and you're tracking well, but you're also teaching the blades to track nice and well. So yeah, they would be my keys, and that's a lot of my programming is based around those.
Yeah, right. Yep. One of the things that I discovered when I was with that PT, the basketball trainer, he used to do a lot of unilateral exercises for that reason, because of basketballers, quite often jump from one leg and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I discovered that I had reasonably significantly more strength in my left leg than I did in my right. And what I worked out was that I was unconsciously favouring it when I was having to do a weighted exercise. Like when I was walking up a hill, I would step up with my left, lift my right up to my left leg, and then step up again with my left leg. So my right leg was being quite lazy. It was getting a free ride basically because my left leg was doing a lot of the work. So we had to do quite a bit of work around trying to even that up. And I would, I'd have to do exercises and burn out my right leg before I even started on the left leg.
Yeah, that's pretty common. I've injured my right knee, ACL, multiple dislocations of the kneecap. So yeah, I definitely can understand from a favoritism perspective that my left would get a bit more. And I even noticed that too, if standing on a hill, if you are thinking about it, like what leg do you actually kind of lean your weight on, and what's the angle like, and how unsteady is the terrain, and when you take off, you are going to favor a leg, especially when you're tired. And I guess another exercise is good is doing step ups, but not just jump. People are treating it like aerobics and going up and down super quick. It's like, no, actually load the exercise properly with some, dumbbells or kettlebells or a weight vest, and step up efficiently, but also lower yourself down with some, I guess, control, and treat it like a good, strong, strengthening exercise for the quads and the glutes, and keeping the knees healthy.
Yep. What I don't know if I want to know the answer, but what did you do to dislocate a kneecap? That sounds incredibly painful.
Yeah, so I had done it 3 times at jiu-jitsu. So I was training like in martial arts quite a bit, and basically the first time someone had hooked their foot around my calf, and I was trying to push my knee through, I guess, their guard or one way, and they pulled my leg the other way and it came out. And then another time was just I went back too early from rehab and I was just doing a warm up or something and just popped out. And people could see it under my like my knee sleeve, and it was gross. And
Yeah,
then,
that sounds
but I guess
gross.
the main one, the embarrassing one, was I was in Bali and I sat
It's
down to have
it's
lunch.
okay, Ben. What happens in Bali stays in Bali, mate. We don't have to talk anymore.
Rolled the ankle and the knee just went. So, and I guess that's why I always talk about, injury prevention is we got to consider the leg as 3 points. You got your ankle, your knee, and your hip.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time, the knee cops it because there's actually an issue at the ankle or the hip.
Yeah.
So for me, it was ankles, and then I have tight hips, and then it's just a disaster.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was that ruined Bali. That's for sure. I had to swim with one leg, and they had good access to this paracetamol Nurofen combination that you can't get over in Australia. So them and a few bintangs, and I was all right. Just kept going.
Yeah, it's pretty scary what you can buy over the counter in countries like that, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, didn't bring any of that back, but it got me through the
Yeah,
got me through the holidays. So
yeah. You don't want to be bringing that through the airport and having customs
no,
shove things in places of your body that aren't designed to.
exactly.
Yeah. Now with nutrition as well, do you as part of these packages and even external to the packages, do you cover, is the nutrition just nutrition at home or do you cover backcountry nutrition as well? Like would you do a system to do a meal plan for what they might take in their backpack on the hunt?
Yeah, it's pretty much whatever the client needs.
Mm-hmm.
So if it is, they're wanting to drop a few kilos, but then they're also going out for their hunt, and they want some assistance there, that's easy. Or they want pure performance based, digestive, help, chronic disease management. I kind of cover everything that I can. Um, who knows? But definitely, I try and tailor everything to, I guess, hunting, having that, you know, I guess, lifestyle, like I've said, trying to eat the game meat, the wild caught fish, homegrown vegetables, and things like that. That's where a lot of my, I guess, philosophy and I guess, priorities that I guess I try and not preach, but I just go, this is what I do, this is what works for me. Maybe it's worth a crack.
Yep.
But yeah, if someone needed me to get into like the specifics for a plan for a few days, or they were going, oh, I'm taking this. This is what I normally take. This is how I feel. We can sit down and we can figure out where we can optimize things.
Yeah, one of the things I've picked my friend's brain about was some backcountry nutrition, and because she's keto, obviously she's very much focused around high fat products.
Yeah.
So she's, and I love her for this. She's like, oh, take pork crackling. That would be one of the best sources of energy, and it's lightweight and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But one of the bits of advice she gave me is, and this comes to supplementation as well, which I'll get to, but her advice is if you are doing it at home, do it when you go away as well, because your body won't like the adaptation to a completely different diet. So if you're drinking 4 cups of coffee at home every day, drink 4 cups of coffee as well in the backcountry, because if you just stop cold turkey, you'll suffer. If you're taking fish oil and calcium and blah 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 at home, take all that stuff with you and keep it going. Is that your sort of thought process as well?
Yeah, and that's conditioning, really, at the core. It's getting used to I guess something that you're doing over and over again, so that becomes the new normal. And that even from I guess if we quickly, back to a training perspective, if you're going for a walk with your pack on, wear those shoes that you're going to wear hunting. If you want to wear the clothing as well, or to some degree that's close enough, wear that too. So yeah, nutritionally, do not introduce anything new, because the worst thing you can do is get caught with your pants down when your dream stag walks past.
Yep.
And you're hopeless. And yeah, so supplementation, coffee, anything. I find a lot of people will take energy gels and things like that, and the type of carbohydrate that's in it, a lot of people can't actually tolerate it, and you actually have to train your gut to get used to it. So unless you're willing to have it for a couple weeks and spend those dollars on getting used to it because you really want to have them, you can, but is it worth it? Well, probably not.
Yep. And there's a particular product. I did some training years ago for a half marathon, and there's a particular product, hydration product, and a carbohydrate source as well that you drink along the race. And the advice that I got was that you need to start loading this into your body at least 6 weeks before the race, and start off with a small dose each day, and then slowly build up, because if you just start drinking this on the day before the race, you will shit your pants on the race, almost guaranteed. And same sort of thing applies to the backcountry as well. If you take these carbohydrate blocks and drinks and the little Slurpee packets and that sort of thing, and you don't trial them beforehand, there is a chance that they will affect your gut and intestinal function when you're in the backcountry.
Yeah, so you definitely got to train the gut. And from a biochemical perspective, we got to consider how important the relationship between water and carbohydrates are. So for every gram of glucose that's broken down from the carbs we eat, that takes 3 to 4 grams of water to do that, and then it also will then be stored with 3 to 4 grams of water. So a lot of these gels are obviously or slushies and things like that, they're very condensed with carbohydrates, whether that's in the form of sucrose or fructose. So fructose from fruit, sucrose is just standard sugar. And that's also, I guess, a lot of the stuff with weight cutting as well that I've done in the past is basically trying to stop people from shitting themselves when they reintroduce food into the diet.
Yeah.
You got to hydrate well first, and that's using electrolytes. I've got a good neutral flavored one that I just have in my water called Cineplex Revive. That's by KTS Solutions. I'm not too sure if we can get it out here in Australia, but I know that I can stock it. I'm pretty sure I got a wholesale account somewhere.
Yep.
Log in. So that's something I've used for years. But next best thing would be Hydrolyte. Okay. It has a little bit of glucose in it that helps with the absorption, but not too much. And it is the electrolytes are in a good ratio that the body needs. But also then from a carbohydrate perspective, also it's got to consider fiber. So fiber, it's going to be pulling a bit of water into the digestive tract and might cause some distress and things like that as well. So yeah, definitely if you are going to commit to some supplementation and things like that, you got to train your gut. But yeah, also just consider the hydration side of things first before you start throwing any different cocktails into the mix.
Yeah. And hydration is linked in very strongly. My understanding is it's linked in very strongly with your nutritional absorption as well. That your body won't actually absorb the nutrients out of the food properly if you are not hydrated, and it then doesn't have the ability to transfer that through your body as well.
Yeah, so water is basically a catalyst to every uh, uh, chemical reaction in the body. So basically, catalyst is something that makes things happen, and how nutrients are, I guess, moved around our bodies through our bloodstream. So, and water, blood is mainly water. It doesn't look like water, but I can guarantee it mainly is. And so, yeah, having the ability, being hydrated to break things down, to being able to, then transport these things through the body, it goes hand in hand, really.
Yep. And in terms of supplementation then as well, you've mentioned the hydrolytes and the Cineplex. Pre-hunt preparation, are there any particular supplements that you would recommend generally? Obviously, this is going to be something that's specific to the person and their needs, but in general terms, are there ones that you would recommend?
Yeah, I guess from a health perspective, a performance perspective, well-being, I definitely think fish oil's very important. That's just one from cognition to joint health to heart health. It's, the term superfood gets thrown around quite a lot. I think kale superfood a few years ago. But fish oil is definitely something that's really good. And there is actually some research coming out now that having a good intake of omega-3 fatty acids is going to actually help with muscle growth as well. Okay. So you can't take them and then just expect muscles to grow. You have to train, but there is something very good. Also, I have published a systematic literature review on omega-3s. So mainly, this one's mainly for the ladies having dysmenorrhea, which is a painful menstrual cycle. And there we are at the university, trying to start to look at that as a treatment. Okay. So that's definitely, obviously very specific to 2 grams per day, so 2 capsules. Then I would have probably magnesium up there as well. So magnesium's electrolyte, but it's also, used in about 300 biochemical reactions in the body. So that is from everything. So just, I guess, reader beware or listener beware. It is used in everything from ramping you up from energy production to ramping you down to making you go to sleep.
Yep.
So my advice would be taking it in the middle of the day, because it's either going to, it's kind of a safe time to test it, because if you take it first thing in the morning, you're going to be either falling asleep or jumping through the roof, or at nighttime, same thing. And if you're trying to get to sleep and you're just turn into an owl, it's not a good thing. But also checking the form that it comes in. So try to avoid the salt form, which is magnesium oxide, because that will make you crap your pants. Essentially, I used to give that to people who had constipation, and it worked quite well. Take 10 of these. But now, no, when you get home. And then they would
be within 6 foot of a toilet.
What did you do to me? I said, did you go? They're like, oh, did I go? Oh, yeah. But it worked. So just like a collated or chelated version's probably the best. And then vitamin D is probably another one. So that's important for immunity, mental well-being as well. That's something that's I would have up there as well. From where I am in Melbourne, it's not very sunny, and when I'm in Geelong as well, it's sunny in summer, but it rains more in Geelong than it does in Melbourne. So anywhere from the recommendations, 1,000 IUs or one tablet. But I had an athlete who I caught up with recently that I was training. He went to his sports physician, was told to take 20,000 IUs because his vitamin D was so low. So that's important as well. But anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 is probably a safe dose. But again, check your bloods, get them checked by the GP. Something I really recommend before any supplementation. Getting it done yearly. Most of it is covered through Medicare, unless I know GPs are changing and charging and things now. But checking your bloods, trying to figure out what your symptoms are. If you are, it doesn't have to be, I feel sick or this, but understanding that what's optimal. So even if you go to the GP and they say, your bloods are within range, it's like
that old chestnut
that you're good.
Sorry, mate, you just froze again. You went to the GP and said your bloods are within range.
Yep. Yeah. So GP, say your bloods are within range, but that range is based off a sick population.
Yep.
So if you want to be sick, you stay within that range. But if you want to be like myself or someone who's there's a lot of like functional medicine practitioners out there that are quite switched onto these things as well. Definitely I would have that would be my advice.
Yep. I know as you have the benefit of age, it does come with some side effects, and one of those is the decreasing testosterone level. And I had my blood tested a few years ago, and I specifically wanted the doctor to check testosterone, and he came back with, yes, you're in range, you're fine. And then when I did some research in it and found out about how they determined this range, and realised that it wasn't actually really in the healthy range, particularly for the sort of things that I want to do and continuation of quality of life. So then I had to start looking at how I'm going to try and increase this and so forth. And I'm certainly not advocating for TRT here, because that's a lifelong commitment. Once you're on it for good. But and that should be a last resort. But there are certainly other things that you could be doing. What about B12 as well? I've read quite a bit on that lately, and how in particular our modern day society is lacking in it, and a lot of the animals that are farmed need to actually have injections in them because they're not absorbing it anymore, and therefore passing it on to us.
Yeah, and just, I guess, a bit of a quick segue back to testosterone and, I guess, sex hormones is, I find a lot of people with high cholesterol, they go on a statin and their cholesterol gets pulled down. We need to understand that cholesterol is the backbone to sex hormones.
Right.
So you need some cholesterol to actually make testosterone, to make progesterone, to make estrogen, that actually make you feel good. So if there's any listeners out there that are, I guess, on a statin and they're noticing energy levels are down and things like that, it's probably affecting sex hormones.
Okay.
So that's just something to keep an eye out on. My experience with my dad had that, and he had no cholesterol after a heart attack. And I was like, get off it, and got off it, and everything leveled out again. But it is something. But yeah, B12 in energy production, a lot of the things, I guess B vitamins and things like that within the Krebs cycle, which is where we make like ATP and things like that for energy. It's different. But yeah, a lot of the, I guess, the farm quality is decreasing from a nutritional value, and you can even see that when buying half a kilo of meat and it's all water coming out. It's like just can't even buy half a kilo of mince,
Yeah.
if you wanted that. But yeah, even we got to think too. I know a lot of the I guess the vegan community crap on about mushrooms are full of B vitamins and things like that. But they're not bioavailable to us
Yeah.
like it is in meat. But we have lucky we've got access to venison, and especially if all listeners, we hunt, plenty of B vitamins in that, plenty of iron, creatine, things that are obviously going to give you good energy. That's super important, and it's lean as well. So from a health perspective, you can't really trash it. It's pretty good. Unless you've got a severe intolerance, I'd recommend most people eat it.
Yeah. You've answered the next question I was going to ask. I was going to compare how wild-sourced protein such as venison compares to farmed, because the B vitamin that we're needing is actually contained in the soil. So this is my understanding, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong. And the animals, as they eat, they consume small amounts of soil each time, and then obviously that gets ingested, transferred into their muscles, and then we eat that, and that's how it's transferred on. And because of farming practices now, modern farming practices, we've lost that, because a lot of the meat now is supplemented food, so they're not accessing it out of the ground like they used to.
Yeah, and that's any rotating stock on different plots of land. Has the land actually had time to regenerate and get healthy again? And that even comes down to like growing veggies and things like that as well. They're constantly having to put things back in, because what you're growing is taking it all out, takes all the nutrition out of the soil. And then you need we got a lot of people to feed in the world, so it's got to go back somehow. So yeah, it's definitely that's where I think you see a deer, it was eating grass or other plants and things like that, and you're 99.9% sure that before you pull the trigger, that's what it was doing. It was looking for the good quality nutrition that it knows it needs to grow, to be, I guess, big and safe in its mind for survival. So yeah, it's just and that's where it comes back, I guess. The advocacy for trying to hunt and eat as natural as possible, because the nutrition benefit is there.
Welcome to this segment of the Friends of the Podcast, and today I'm very pleased to be joined by Mick from Deer School. Mick, how are you? Thanks for coming on board.
Great, and thanks for having us. It's a real pleasure.
Yeah. Now I know that we've already had a couple of conversations already, so I'm sort of very well aware of what you are doing down there in the Deer School, but and who you are. But I want to give you the opportunity to get the word out there amongst the hunters in Australia about what it is you're doing. But first of all, just give us a bit of background about yourself.
Well, I've got a funny upbringing. I was born in London. My sister was born in Singapore. I didn't get to Australia and meet my grandparents until I was nearly 10. So we travelled around a lot. I grew up in Brisbane and then moved to Melbourne nearly 10 years ago now, and picked up a rifle and away I went.
Normally people go the other way, Mick. Normally people live in Melbourne and move to Brisbane because they realise that's the best thing. But
this is true, and and the line of work I was in was very boom or bust in Queensland in the mining game. I'm a pilot by trade, and I did the fly in, fly out gig for quite a while, literally, up the pointy end, and that stuff was and still is pretty unreliable, I guess. And I took the opportunity to take a more or less a government-based kind of role that proved to be much more reliable. Yeah.
All right. And so, in terms of your hunting and so forth, you discovered Samba deer, obviously, when you moved down to Victoria.
I did quickly, and like most people, I'm self-taught, but I think the difference is, I guess, coming from my work background, I wrote things down, and good or bad, success or not, I wrote down why, and I wrote down what went well and what didn't on each particular hunt. I wrote down wind and weather conditions and really sort of analyze things. And when you go out enough, you very quickly start to develop a pattern, and you can bracket things much better, and hone techniques and things.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. And so then this led into the inception of the deer school.
It did. And I think I only put up my own Facebook thing again maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I was just doing the normal thing of you shoot a deer and you do the classic grip and grin kind of photo, or put up a dish that you've cooked from that deer, or both. I try to combine both of them. I'm a meat hunter through and through. I probably cook deer as well as I can hunt them. And, when you do that more often than not, people start writing in and go, who are you? Because I've come from nowhere and sort of just popped up on the scene. And that leads to people asking for help. And I had people writing into me saying, I've asked for help and I've been belittled, or I've been, made fun of, literally. And I come from a teaching background as well in flying, and, I enjoy that kind of stuff. And I had a thought of, well, why can't we help people? And I got a few of those guys on board years ago and taught them how I hunt and how I do it, just to figure out whether I like teaching deer hunting or not. And the thing just took off and went from there.
Great. All right. So I guess the whole thing we're here about is, tell us what the deer school is.
Well, deer school is it's not school for deer, as I've been asked by some smartasses, I guess. It's just a name that popped up into our head. We teach a very different technique. I had a big think about, how do I hunt and how does that work for me and my family at home, compared to what is seen as the idealized hunt on YouTube. Now, we all love the romantic big, week-long or more trip in the high country, but it's not something that people can do every day. It's a box that we will tick once or twice in a lifetime, sure, but the trip to the high country costs hundreds of dollars of diesel. It's days and days of camping. It's time away that you've got to get from work and from the family, and it's just not something you can do all the time. I was basically shooting about a deer a week, and the only way you can do that is to hunt local and hunt close and hunt fringe country, and you end up working yourself into a regime where you're door to door with a dead deer in the back of the ute in 3 to 4 hours. And in most cases you can go out early in the morning, for example, and be reversing into the driveway and busting through the front door yelling and yahoo, and the family's not even awake yet. So that certainly is going to work for most people. The high country trip that's for whatever reason seen as the the ultimate sort of thing, people will end up doing that. But I think that fringe country hunting is a way that most people early on will get onto more deer more quickly and have more success more quickly. I don't believe that heading out in the high country and walking in concentric circles around a point wherever you stop is going to be successful for guys early on. And we sort of say to our people that come through our system that, start off fringe country hunting, get half a dozen or a dozen deer under your belt, get your freezers full and get your freezers consistently full, and then head out to the high country and tick that high country stag box and mount the thing on the wall and away you go. And we certainly suggest to them that fringe country is what keeps your freezer full. It's the high country stuff is that's your once or twice a year adventure. That's the big game, isn't it? And certainly after half a dozen or a dozen deer under their belt, they'll be able to much more effectively and consistently hunt the high country as well.
And one of the other things that you and I have discussed already is about those local sort of hunts being a proving ground for your equipment and so forth that then
absolutely
supports you in those high country hunts.
Absolutely. And obviously, your day pack loadout is going to be different to a multi-day camping mission on your feet with a much bigger pack. But, it's far better to find out what gear works for you and what doesn't when you're close to home than being 2 days away from a car and kilometres away from a car in the high country where the weather can get, nasty really quick. And you better be sure about your gear before you attempt that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
100% there. All right. So what's the course sort of structure and what can people expect from a course?
Yeah. So getting back to what works for the everyman, what works for guys that have families and jobs and things like that, we structure our course really differently and to fit that kind of scenario. So we break the course up into 3 sessions. They're generally on a Sunday, and people pay as they go. There's no need to stump up a lump sum or anything like that. And you're only looking at spending, 3 Sundays in a row. So the course effectively goes over 6 weeks, but it's broken up into 3 sessions. And most people are able to get that through the missus or get that through the bank account and so on. It just makes it, by breaking it up like that, it makes them much more able to do it rather than having to get 3 or 4 days off or more in a big session and having to stump up a lump sum up front. And that's certainly been very popular and very easy for people to do.
And the structure, so each day is then broken up into sort of learning elements and classes.
Yeah, that's right. So the first 2 are theory sessions here at home. We operate out of home, which I think gives a good feel to it. You're not sitting in some dry town hall or that's got no personality or something like that. You're here in a very consistent deer hunter's home, and there's head on the walls. There's all the deer paraphernalia and stuff hanging around. People can see how I store and butcher and process deer, and it's a live, real setup, I guess. And it's certainly hands-on. But we do 2 theory sessions first up. There's lots of homework and things issued in between. There is a course running at the moment, and we're in between the first 2 theory sessions. I don't know if you saw the reels and pictures and things on Facebook, but the guys turned up on day 1 and walked through the door, and they get handed a beer and a knife, and we pointed at a deer on the ground and away they go. And it's very hands-on, and 90% of the guys that walk through my door have never even seen a deer before. So it's literally, here's the beer, there's the deer, off we go. And they threw that whole deer through the mincer, and they all take home a couple of kilos of mince, and we're having a spaghetti bolognese cook-off at the moment. And the best presented one wins a pair of binoculars. So that certainly is great fun during the course, along with homework and bits and pieces that we set up as well. The next series session goes for them, and then we do a practical session out in the bush as well. Yeah.
All right. And that practical session, is that on a private property that you have access to, or on public land?
It's both. We hop in and out of private property and public land. It's scenario based. The way we build our work practice or our work cycle into hunting, we show them that for real. So while they're what we call desktop stalking, they're looking at areas. We have our own form and our own paperwork that they fill out that guides them step by step to sort of grade an area. And then, of course, the next step in our work cycle we call diesel stalking. They go out and have a look at things. And as you well know, you can look at stuff on Google Earth and the online maps and things, and you get out there in real life and it's completely different. And you can sometimes you can instantly rule out an area, or you can be on the way into that area and see something even better while you're there. But at least they've got, a form 2/3 of the way filled out. When we take them out to those areas, there's a loose mud map that's drawn on the back of that form, and while they're walking around, they can fill in, areas where they've seen sign. We have a little legend where they draw little symbols on things where they can work out where the deer are entering and exiting, where there's fresh rubs and all that sort of stuff. I don't tell them where the wallows are on the map. We go and show them where they are, and then they place them on the map with the little symbol, which keeps them orientated while they're walking around and stuff. And that's both on private and public land. We like them to be able to work both of them.
Yeah. Okay. Now you're a very generous man as well in terms of costing.
Yes.
How much is it for a standard course?
This year, the price is $900 for the whole lot. So we're not the cheapest course in the country, but we are by far and away not the most expensive either.
Yeah, but just to add to that as well, so that's $900 for the standard course.
Yes.
A junior hunter, if Dad was to show up with his son, how much extra would you charge for the son?
Righto. We are very family orientated, and we believe this sport is needs that family element. If their teenager has got a valid junior firearms permit that you can get here in Victoria from I think it's about 15 or so, quite early. If they've got a valid junior firearm permit and Dad's willing to bring them along, we don't charge for the kids. Yeah.
I should say Dad or Mum bringing the kid along.
Apologies.
Shouldn't exclude.
Yeah, of course. No, of course. And we do need, we give a discount to women. We give a discount to veterans or active service people. They are the kind of people we need in the sport, and we desperately need more women in the sport as well.
Yeah, very much agree with you there too.
Yeah.
All right. And you also have some other things on offer and as sort of as part of the course. You want to talk about those?
Yeah, you've got to diversify in all things business. Obviously, you can't put all your eggs in one little course. I mean, don't get me wrong. There is no money in hunting deer. This is a passion project in every sense. But getting into this scene and coming from where I come from now, contracted to Air Ambulance Victoria, you can't walk into any hunting shop in Melbourne that I've been to and buy a first aid kit, which is just bonkers for me. I just can't believe that happens. And nor can you find, even online, any hunting first aid kit that's specifically designed for deer stalking. They just don't exist. Some of my best mates are down the back of the aeroplane doing the real work, the real magic, and we got together and had a think session about what is really appropriate for deer hunters and what do we use. And remember, we're the guys that pick up hunters from the bush. We see all these injuries. We see all the we see it. And this kit was designed. The order is assembled and fulfilled by a company in Thomastown in Melbourne, and everything in that kit is 100% hospital grade stuff. There's nothing in that kit that says Band-Aid or Elastoplast or anything that you can buy in Coles. It's all professional grade stuff.
Yep. Yep. Great. All right. And you mentioned the cooking before as well, and the spaghetti cook-off.
Yeah. The cooking is an absolute passion. I don't understand how you can hunt deer and not be passionate about cooking them as well. I think to me, that's the whole point. The free range or organic red meat is definitely a huge plus out of the hobby. We have a cookbook in the works, and again, in that deer school fashion, it's modern and different and real. It's based around meals that you and I and everyone else in Australia has every day. I think it's pretty unrealistic for people to cook these really complicated, venison roasts full of herbs and things that are unobtainium or very difficult to obtain. I mean, where
truffle butter,
apart from online, I mean, where do you go and buy juniper on the spot? You can't. Nor is it really feasible to rip off a perfectly done, complicated venison roast on a Tuesday night. It just doesn't happen. And most kids won't eat those kind of strong flavors as well. And everything you do to those roasts, brings out, a stronger venison flavor, and it's too strong for kids, and they don't like the texture. So, kids like the spaghettis and the lasagnas and the meatballs and the schnitzels and all that kind of stuff. They want to eat with their hands or with a spoon. That's what kids want to do. So, so our cookbook is based on that, and based on, I think, a very practical notion of, most guys in the forest will quarter out a deer, grab the back straps, do what we call the reach around, and grab the tenderloins without gutting the animal, and they bring the animal home in 4 or 5 pieces. Usually, most people will freeze that whole with the skin on, and when you pull that leg out, you've then got to deal with, if it's a rear leg, a big one, 10 to 20 kilos of red meat, and what do you do then? So the book is going to be based on that analogy of, here's a leg, this is what you do with it. Here's half a dozen or more meals that you're going to make that are different meals out of that leg. Here's the ingredient list. You need to make the whole lot. And it ends up being a meal prep sort of scenario.
Yep. All right.
Yeah. Rather than, I think, ridiculous sort of special meals that you might cook 2 or 3 times a year. This is practical, everyday venison. Yeah,
that's right. And it's hard enough getting kids away from eating, just only wanting to eat chicken nuggets and that sort of thing. So it's got to be like you say, family friendly and doable, so that mum or dad can come home from work, organise the kids into doing homework and showers and all the rest of it, and throw a meal together without having to spend hours.
100%, and it's as best as possible, portioned and away you go.
All right. All sounds great, mate. What is the best way for people who are interested in learning more about the deer school or the first aid kits or the cookbook? What's the best way for people to contact you?
So get in contact with us on Facebook or Instagram. We've got an online store, which is deerschool.net. If you just type that in with no spaces, and every single one of those things has got a message button or a contact button, or I think the Facebook page even has my mobile number, which you can just spin up and ring me, and I'll as you know, I'll talk about deer till the cows come home. So
till you get called up to go to work.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, great. Yep. All right, mate. Well, look, I'll definitely throw some details in the show notes on the podcast, and when the episode comes out, we'll link in on the Instagram post so that everybody knows where to go and find you. But
absolutely.
All sounds amazing, mate. I wish there'd been somebody like you around when I started deer hunting, because
we're changing that, and we're slowly but surely every year putting 60 to 100 hunters every year into the sport with a fresh, modern, new and inclusive and good attitudes, and if I can do nothing out of this but improve the sport, I've done the right thing.
Yeah, sounds great. All right, Mick, thanks. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Anytime.
Great. I love it. Love hearing that this whole process of sourcing our own meat and being responsible for that has more benefits than just just the obvious, that there are some hidden health benefits to it as well.
Yeah, and I think too, like, it's going back to, like how we spoke earlier about, our, the ancestors and things like that. It's having a connection. You can go to Woolies or Coles and grab something out of a packet, but you don't know how many other people have touched that packet along the way, how many touch points where you're going out and get your own food. You've stalked, you've glassed, you've seen, you've pulled the trigger, you've broken the animal, you spent some time with it, and then you break it down, you take what you need, what you want, and you go home, you clean it up, age it if you want, and then you eat it. That's I think that's it's a beautiful process. It's what we should be doing.
Yep. So with your practices, your own personal practices then about meat collection and aging and that sort of thing, what systems do you have in place?
Yeah, so I've kind of trialed it. I haven't aged things before, or I normally do, in the fridge for about a week. I find to be pretty good. It depends on, I guess, the animal. If it's something that's quite older, I will probably tend to age it, where you find you're breaking down, especially the back legs. Some of the muscle groups that are that rich red color, where some others are more that, I guess, that pinky color. So which ones are actually doing all the work in the animal.
Yep.
But yeah, if it is older, I will age it for probably about a week. And then if it's a bit younger, I probably do half the time, or not at all. It also depends on how low the freezer is, I think, as well. If I've got time to do it, I'll take my time. But if I want meat the next day, well, I've basically gone to the supermarket and I'm gonna start cracking into it.
Yep. There is a formula, a pretty accepted formula about the temperature that you've got to reduce the meat by and so forth. And I'm up in Queensland, so a lot of the majority of the hunting I do is red deer. Obviously, all that's on private property and so forth. So we do have the properties are nowhere near as big. It's not like we have to back in like we're in the Alpine National Park or whatever. So we do have opportunity to recover more meat. But also we've got heat up here, which is an issue, and so you've got to sort of balance how much do you bring out compared to how much are you prepared to risk. So if I have access to a vehicle to get the animal into a vehicle, then I will try and do that. And I have a couple of friends who have their own personal cold rooms. So if we can get the whole animal back, put it in the cold room, then we'll do that. And otherwise, I'll break it down, take the quarters and the backstrap and the tenderloin and so forth. And I've used the ice method. So I put it in a big esky. I've got it's about 130 odd litre esky, and I'll sort of leave it in the game bags, layer it in the esky with some spaces between it, and then just start packing it with ice. And leave the bung out, and as the ice melts and let the water drain out, and then you just put more ice on top and sort of circulate the cold water through it all and keep it in that cold environment, and that's worked quite well for me as well. But I do have a mate who's got Eastern European backgrounds. He's a taxidermist as well, and he will hang his meat for a minimum of 14 days. He said when he walks in the cold room and it's starting to stink, then that's when he takes it out and will butcher it. And that by that stage, the proteins and the enzymes have worked their magic inside the muscle groups and broken them down and all that sort of thing.
Broken them down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of the meals I've had at his house, the meat is just exceptional, but I don't know. I don't know if I can bring myself to that point of walking in the coal room and smelling rotting meat and then wanting to eat it. But apparently it is it is quite good. So I trust him. But yeah.
Yeah, we had that. It was shot at Big Samba in winter, and it was we looked at the forecast, and it was cold enough to leave it. We've got a smokehouse here, and we'll seal things up, keep it nice and cool in there, and but yeah, by the end of the process, it'll start to stink a bit, and look, we probably left it a little bit too long for my nose to tolerate it. But yeah, I've seen guys aging for quite a while, and they always say it's better.
Yeah.
But I guess it comes down to personal preference and time and things like that.
Yeah. When I was in America, we shot a couple of pronghorn antelope over there, and we donated a majority of it to the landowner because we ended up hunting on private property, and they have game processors over there. So you take your carcass in, and they'll then process it and turn it into whatever you want. Whether it's cuts of meat, or they'll turn it into processed meat sticks and that sort of thing. And that's what the landowner wanted.
Yeah.
Was these particular meat sticks with jalapeno cheese embedded in it and so forth.
Okay.
And anyway, we kept a little bit. We kept a couple of the tenderloins for ourselves, and because we were there in November in Montana and Wyoming, you can understand how cold it is, and we just left them in the game bags in the back of the ute that we were driving around. And we had a Dodge Ram, open rear ute, and just left them in that. And we would literally open the game bag, cut off a piece of meat, take it and cook it up, and there was nothing wrong with it at all. It was delicious. It was one of the best game meats I've ever had.
Yeah, no, we shot deer. Well, last time I shot one was probably about a month ago, and we had a very cold night, and we left it, hanging in the farm there, and the whole thing froze. And but then the issue was that all the fat that is there does freeze, and then it's even more painful to break down. So I always try and break it down as much as possible, as quickly as possible, just to avoid that, because I'm very very particular with how I like to have it all nice and neat and even. And my brother's like, "You're wasting this," and I'm like, no. If you're giving it to someone, it's got to look like it came from the shop, mate. It has to be well presented, so then they enjoy it a bit more. He's like, fair point. I was like,
yeah. Do you ever eat anything at the time? Because I have heard that the terminology of green, that the meat is too green, and I have heard that it can make people sick if they consume it, usually in less than 24 hours. So is that ever something
we've had tenderloins? We've had pretty much that, I would say within 12 to 15 hours, haven't had an issue. I know a lot of guys that would eat the heart straight away. They find that to be the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But I personally haven't encountered any issues. But again, it comes down to someone's digestive system. Or it could just be in their head. You don't know.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, the heart is one thing I haven't. I haven't tried the heart yet. That's one thing I really want to do. Is and a lot of the time it because it's got a big hole in it. But that's one thing I really want to do next is find a good way to cook the heart, because I've seen quite a few people promote it, eating it, after the kill as the sort of celebratory meal, a little bit of seasoning, roasting it over the fire, and it looks good. So that's going to be my next project to work on.
Yeah, I like the heart. It's pretty delicious. So you just got to make sure you get all the nice little stringy bits out of it, and that's actually quite enjoyable.
Yeah, I think that's part of the trick is because obviously we're very visual, and particularly with food, 7/10 of the meal is visual. So if you can learn to butcher it properly and get all those valves and the chambers and so forth out, and I think then it looks quite delicious after that. It's got that real nice red, deep red sort of colouring to it.
Yeah, definitely. Nice steak.
In terms of coming back to nutrition as well, when under high exertion, it can, a lot of people struggle to intake calories. Then they don't feel hungry. They don't feel like sitting down and eating a dehydrated meal or something like that. What sort of food in the way of snacks or a carbohydrate supplement or something or other could you recommend that people could then take as an alternative?
Yeah, I personally tend to crave sugar after really high bit of exercise. So I think having a good mix of carbs, if your blood sugar is going to drop when you have been, working hard. So having something that's going to bring it up quite quickly is always good. But then having something that's quite level as well, that's going to just give you that slow release. So a mixture of high and low GI.
If you're going to give me permission to eat gummy bears as a meal, then I'm in.
Oh yeah, go for it. Gummy bear, sour. I'm on the sourworm train at the moment, so I've been eating them. But yeah, I'd have something like that, or even I like Gatorade personally. I don't scull the whole thing. I'll tend to do maybe a bit of a mouth rinse or have a little bit of a sip and then have some water or, a hydrolyte, something like that. Again, because people, if they are dehydrated, something like a Gatorade or Powerade is going to actually probably upset your stomach just from the way glucose and water interacts within the body. But something like that. The pork crackle, pork rinds kind of thing is good, the high fat as well. I think trail mix is pretty good. Mixture of, you've got your fruit, so it's going to be obviously dried, but then, your nuts and seeds, so you're getting that little bit of protein in there as well. So if you are starting to find that you're getting quite sore, protein's just going to help, with recovery. But I really like having even some muesli bars or things like that as well. I digest most things well, but I don't mind a good muesli bar or even like LCMs, those like rice bars as well. They're generally pretty well tolerated by most people as well. They're not really packed with sugar. There's a little bit there, but it's a good, easy, digestible, lightweight as well carb kind of treat. And then I guess just again, probably just a good, well-rounded meal of what someone would normally eat, whether that's rice or pasta. It is very, I guess, individualized kind of thing, but I guess the mixture of carbs and things that you can tolerate would be my recommendation.
Yep. I bought a dehydrator years ago, and I was doing my own dehydrated meals, and so I'd cook, big batch and stick it in, dehydrate it, seal it individually and so forth, because I was just over the dehydrated meals, and the freeze dried meals and so forth, and
and they're expensive too.
They are, yeah, and we get in Australia we get a limited stock of. We only seem to get a couple of suppliers in. And the old meals, they have gotten better lately, but the old meals years ago, sometimes you were better off throwing the contents out and just eating the packaging. There was more flavour and it was easier to digest. But the market has obviously expanded, and America has the advantage of having a huge hunting industry, and so they've developed a lot better products over there, and we got to sample quite a few of them, and I ended up bringing some back, and there's a few really good meals that were available, but yeah, of course we couldn't get them over here, and customs for some reason don't like you bringing packages sealed in a foil container that doesn't that the X-ray can't penetrate, and they cut a few of mine open when I tried to import them. Which didn't end well for the food product inside. So yeah, ended up getting a dehydrator, and I would cook my own meals and then just dehydrate them and package them. So that's obviously a next sort of level step for somebody to take, because that requires a significant investment, and then investment in time and that sort of thing. But in terms of an easy alternative to that, as a alternative to dehydrating yourself, an alternative to the mass-produced freeze-dried meals, are there things that you could recommend that people could take for a backpack hunt?
Yeah, I guess it depends on how much room you've got, and if you're gonna, for cooking and things like that. Any real good source, I guess, something like rice, maybe a bit of mincemeat or something in a thermos might get you through the first day. It'll stay nice and warm, things like that. And then things like pastas are probably going to be, probably your next best thing, because they are lightweight and you can cook them quite easily. But yeah, it is a difficult thing to manage, because you've got, you have got the pre-done stuff, you have got the option to make your own, and it comes down to pack space. It comes down to how many of you are going out, and things like that, and your preferences too. If you're a picky eater, you're really going to struggle. I feel so. That's where those snacky kind of foods are going to come into play. Yeah, if I, if I'm going out just for a day, I like to run a thermos full of food, some mincemeat, some chicken stock, and some rice, and it all tends to absorb, and it tastes quite nice. You have whatever flavoring you want there, but then obviously for multiple days and things like that, you need to, I guess, really consider what the priorities are from what's in your kit. But yeah, ideally it would be a good source of carbohydrates, and pasta seems to be quite nutritionally, it's quite good, because you do have the protein component in there as well. So yeah, it would probably be my go-to, and then variations of that, whatever is within reason for that person.
Yeah. And to bolster the calories in a meal as well, would you recommend taking something like coconut oil or olive oil or even ghee to throw into the meal?
Yeah, so yeah, fat's the main, I guess, from a calorie perspective. Per gram, that's 9 calories. And if we've got protein and carbs, that's 4 calories per gram. So yeah, fat is your big bang for your buck. So yeah, if you can, obviously, try not to overdose on the oils, because you might crap yourself. But definitely, yeah, whatever. Again, back to the, I guess, eating what you used to, things like that. It's going to be important. Even having some peanut butter as well as just a small jar as a snack.
Yeah.
That could be a good go-to as well.
Yep. Yeah. One of the things I've discovered recently actually, which I really enjoy, is dog and gun coffee.
Yep.
You've seen them. They make a hot chocolate called Hog Chocky, and I'll take a few scoops of that and then put a heaped teaspoon of coconut milk powder into it as well, and then hot chocolate at night or even in the middle of the day. If you're sitting around waiting for the rain to clear or something or other, it's a good morale booster, and that's just a few extra calories as well that are easy to get into you and nice and lightweight.
Yeah, it's definitely like one of the things in the hospital side of things, if someone's recovering, from surgery and things like that, we give them like a high energy, high protein diet, and a lot of that is based around dairy foods, because they do have the higher fat content and the higher protein content as well. So whatever's going to keep, but cheese, but milk powder's probably the best thing. That's actually a great idea. That's gonna, it doesn't weigh anything, and it's going to boost you. So that's definitely something.
All right, Ben. I really appreciate your advice tonight and the information you've imparted on us, and I hope I haven't done you out of any customers by getting you to share your 12 secret herbs and spices.
That's all right.
But where people who are interested in your services, where can they find you? What's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, so it would probably be through my website, because that's got most of the information on there on what I do offer. So my advice would be go to www.thegamedietitian.com.au, and I try and give as much information on there about the products that I offer or services. So that would be there, and there is forms and things to fill in for inquiries, and or Instagram at the Game Dietitian. And I say this to everyone, that no question is a stupid question.
Yep.
I don't know everything. You don't know everything. Like, if you're unsure of something, just ask. Or if you just want to have a conversation because you're having some issues and you got some teething, things, you're more than welcome to shoot me a message. I might be a little slow to reply sometimes because of my schedule.
Yep, well, working 60 hours a week.
Yeah, so give me 2 business days. That's generally my rule. However, if I do see a message pop up, I will generally reply pretty much straight away.
Yeah,
because I will forget. But I wouldn't forget about a client if anyone's concerned about that. So that would be the go-to, would be the website and then Instagram.
Yep. All right, great. Well, look, I'll put some links and your user details and so forth in the show notes of the podcast, and they'll be on my Instagram as well. I'll certainly link you in, so people will be able to find their way to you. Yeah, Ben, really appreciate your time tonight. I know it's getting late, and you've already worked a full day, and you've got family waiting for you. So again, thank you, and I hope your Game Dietitian packages and so forth do really well for you. I love hearing hunters who are putting their skills to use like this.
Thanks, Tobias. I really appreciate you having me on, mate. And I just love talking about all this stuff. I'm a bit of an open book. Sometimes I ramble on a bit, but I think it's nutrition and training and longevity for hunters. It's something that we should all be thinking about, and getting conversation going in the community, so we can all keep doing what we love forever.
That's right. Yeah, and that's something I've come to notice in myself as the years whittle away. I get up in the morning and I'm sore in a particular place for no apparent reason. So anything I can do to keep me in the mountains and carrying a backpack for longer, I'm all for.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. I turned 30 this year and said, I didn't have that pain in my back earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, nah, definitely. I agree wholeheartedly.
Great. Hey, thank you for listening in. If you'd like to contact me for a chat, pass on any feedback, or have some ideas for future podcasts, please reach out to me on Instagram at australian_hunting_backcountry or email australian.hunting.backcountry@outlook.com.au. For now though, please look after yourselves and your mates.